So my name is Bob Haldane. I work for Payworks. We're an emerging leader in employee time management and payroll solutions. Headquartered in Winnipeg, but we do have locations across Canada. We have 12 locations in total. So basically, I oversee the entire group of anything to do with any of the infrastructure, such as network, security, storage, anything hardware, basically. The storage infrastructure we're using is an HP storage. We use a 10 gigabit SAN network in the back end. We run a VMware infrastructure. Primary applications are a web solution stack, the database backend, Exchange servers, and things like that. The server infrastructure is all HP. We run primarily Gen 8 and Gen 9 blades. We're using the SSDs. Currently, we're using the Intel S3700 series. We're basically a software as a service provider. We do have our payroll application and our time management applications that all do run with a Microsoft SQL backend. So that's actually the database project we're looking at virtualizing right now, is that tier 1 backend. Actually, that's one of the things that Pernix Data has definitely assisted us with. Previously to this, we were kind of the mindset that our database infrastructure was just too large to virtualize. A common story you're hearing these days, and we're finding out that that's not necessarily true. Pernix Data has definitely helped us with that, and the performance results we're seeing on some of the smaller scale databases, we've really realized that we can virtualize our bigger and larger database infrastructures. Storage latency, bandwidth, things like that are definitely a concern. We were proactively monitoring our network and realized that these were potential bottlenecks for the future. So to stay ahead of the curve, we started looking at other solutions and came across Pernix Data, and it was a good fit for our environment. We were just staying ahead of the curve. We saw latency was increasing. Our customer base is increasing every day, and our applications are growing with more features and more things that, of course, are taking a higher hit on the back end for database. So we proactively were looking at solutions to stay ahead of the curve, and that's where Pernix Data really came in. I guess the big three, adding spindles and controllers to our existing SAN, adding a second tier of performance to our SAN, or the dreaded rip and replace forklift upgrade. Obviously a very expensive option, but thankfully we were able to avoid that. When we put it in our environment for a proof of concept in our lab, we were so amazed with how easily it went in, how non-disruptively, no storage was repointed, there was no configurations to the infrastructure. It was just kind of a plug it in, configure it, and go. And the performance gains were just huge and immediate. You really hit the nail on the head there. When we initially released the Pernix Data in our environment, it wasn't for our tier 1 applications. It was for some of our other back-end applications that just needed a performance boost. Once we saw the results that we were getting in that environment, that's when we really started taking a second look at it and saying, why can't we use this for our tier 1 applications? And that was certainly one of the large bonuses of the FVP software. With nothing to ship, nothing to rack, basically we were given a download link and a license key. Installed the software, installed the management server. It was up and running in the span of about an hour, including a coffee. And there was basically no intervention to the existing infrastructure, no repointing of any storage, no configuration on the SAN, no configuration on the ESXi hosts outside of installing the plugins. Once we did roll it into production, users did notice an immediate difference. The one thing that stands out in my mind is we have a frequent report that runs many times in a day. Used to take 5, 6, 7 minutes to run each time. Once we installed the Pernix Data and let that accelerate it, it was down to seconds. To kind of quantify the benefits of that, certainly VM latency was one that was just immediately solved. Any sort of spikes that were happening on the back end where VM latency was spiking up to 30, 40, 50 milliseconds, it's all just been neutralized, and our average latency is down below 1 millisecond. Obviously, buffering and caching and things like that, the amount of storage that's actually going to the back end SAN has been reduced by about 50%. So definitely easy to quantify the advantages of the Pernix Data solution. And just decoupling the performance from the capacity has certainly been a huge benefit for us. It's allowed us to provision more storage rather than leaving such just large headroom in the capacity just to make room for performance. We no longer have to do that, and we're able to actually get more utilization out of our existing SAN. As it stands with the performance of the SAN, we were already looking at options such as replacing it. Accelerating it has given us such headroom that we're going to extend the life of that. And on top of that, adding the capacity like this has certainly added life to our existing SAN. While we didn't actually do a formal ROI analysis, we didn't really need to. The benefits were so huge and so immediate, and the spend was fractions of what it would cost to do any of the other solutions that promised to kind of fix our problems that we were going to experience. We didn't really find it necessary to do the formal report. We just kind of pulled the trigger and said this is a clear winner. A very good experience. In terms of the price point, the bang for the buck is just phenomenal. The nerd inside of me certainly wants to say, I'm thrilled with the performance and the ability to get so much performance out of our existing infrastructure. However, the manager side of me is obviously concerned with the bottom line. Pernix Data has definitely allowed us to reduce our storage spend, which is one of our biggest spends. So definitely kind of increase the bottom line. Storage is a pretty saturated market right now. There's a lot out there from startups offering, all flash arrays, hybrid arrays, things like that. The reason Pernix Data really stood out for us was A, the ease of installation and use and configuration and everything, and B, just the immediate performance gains with no changes to the infrastructure. There's really nothing to lose. Just try the demo, see what it does in your environment, and if you like it, go for it.